Behold, a bike that looks like it came from heaven. A bike with the most beautiful and aggressive lines to ever be put into a motorcycle. Some say it looks better than most modern liter bikes. But the problem is, it's not even expressway legal. Well, just here in the Philippines, I guess. But does that even matter? The CBR250rr, which the RR stands for Race Replica. It's not just there for display. With the specs that it's got, it's truly a race replica motorcycle for the racetrack with turn signals and headlights just to make it street legal. Ito na nga yung motorsiklo na parang kinababaliwan ng lahat at tinuguri ang the best thing we never got. Pero ano nga ba yung nandito sa motor na ito at halos kinababaliwan ito ng lahat ng motorista? Always questioning Honda kung bakit hindi ito nirelease dito sa Pilipinas. But don't worry, kasi hindi lang naman tayo yung Asian country that Honda didn't release it to. Even India and Malaysia aren't that fortunate enough to have it either. In this video, we will be discussing what makes the Honda CBR250rr worth it for its premium price of a whopping 280,000 up to 300,000 Philippine pesos kuno. As some rumors all over the internet say, lalo na yung mga tao sa Facebook saying that they'd rather get other bikes for that price, like the KTM Duke and the KTM RC390, Yamaha R3, and the Kawasaki Ninja 400. And also ranting for the question na kung bakit hindi pa daw ginawang expressway legal for that price, which are all practical reasons and questions ka naman talaga. But is the CBR250rr even built to solve that sense of practicality question? But before we dig into the facts about this awesome beginner race bike, let's have a quick flashback to why it was even built in the first place. The first ever Honda sport bike to wear the CBR badge was the Honda CBR400, which dates back to 1983 and is part of the Japanese domestic market or yung tinatawag na JDMs. Yeah, quite sure that you've heard that acronym elsewhere from car guys. The earliest CBR400 sport bike had a 400cc inline-4 power plant. It had 4 valves per cylinder, air-cooled, 4-stroke, and had dual overhead cams. It also had a rotational speed valve stop mechanism, which was an early prototype of Honda's famous VTEC system and is found in most of their cars up to this date. Going on through the years, the need to bump up the displacement of the CBRs has been relevant, as displacement has been the easiest way to also bump up horsepower and torque figures, as other companies like Kawasaki are also doing so with their Ninjas, Yamaha with their FZRs, which would later rebrand into the R series, and Suzuki with their Gixxers. People were really into sport bikes back then. That was the time where motorcycle racing was on its peak years, and many amateur riders and enthusiasts were taking these street-legal sport bikes to the track either for specific racing leagues or for plain leisure. And in the mid-1980s, it was the time where the manufacturers thought about having smaller displacement race bikes for the track that could attract another class of customers, hence the beginner riders. It was a good time for anybody who wants to ride a sport bike, as the bikes were not as powerful as liter bikes and a little bit easy to control. Honda's answer to the 250cc sport bike trend was the CBR250rr, which debuted in 1986. It had a 250cc inline-4 engine, carbureted, 4 valves per cylinder, liquid-cooled and dual overhead cams. It made about 45 horsepower at 15,000 RPM and had a maximum rev limiter set at a whopping 19,000 RPM, helped by its direct air intake. And that, my friends, is a stock rev limiter. Those revs are savage fast. which is responsible for the high horsepower output for such a small displacement engine. To put that into perspective, the rev limiter of the KTM Duke and RC390s is about 10,500 RPM. And both the Yamaha R3s and the Kawasaki Ninja 400s limit out at 12,500 RPM, literally proving that displacement isn't everything. At yun na nga kailan pa ba babaguhin yung outdated expressway rules dito sa Pilipinas? Bikes should be judged by their horsepower and torque figures, not by engine size alone. Stopping power was taken care of by 2-piston dual disc brakes in the front and the single-piston single caliper in the rear. Tires were 110 cross-section in the front and the 140 cross-section in the rear. Total weight was about 156 kilograms, which was pretty light for a 4-cylinder fully faired bike. Just showing how Honda wasn't skipping the budget to make parts for this bike pretty premium for its time. And for that premium price, having a 4-cylinder engine on a 250cc bike also equates to higher manufacturing costs, which over time didn't really sound that practical anymore for people who didn't realize its true value as a track bike. Lowering sales volume for the bike were really taking its toll, leading for production to cease in 1996. It's always sad to witness the end of a legend. Yun na nga there's no point in producing a bike when no one is buying it, or when almost every beginner rider could not afford it, no matter how awesome it is. And now, after 20 long years, the legend has been reborn, 2016, the year that the legend came back. And about time that Honda realized that the aggressive lines is the right path to go for this commemoration race replica bike. Some say this is what the future of sport bikes should look like. And some even say that this is how the CBR250rr Fireblade should have looked like. Comment down below if you agree. It had a 250cc parallel twin engine with a 180-degree crank, 4 valves per cylinder, dual overhead cams, liquid cooling, and had a 14,000 RPM redline, which exceeds the RPM limits of most parallel twin engine bikes in today's modern era. The compact engine produces about 38 horsepower at 12,500 RPM and 23.3 Nm of torque at 11,000 RPM, mated to a 6-speed manual transmission. Not bad for a 2-cylinder 250cc bike. The lighter engine components make it a rev-happy engine, propelling the bike to a top speed of more than 180 km an hour. No need to tweak the engine or remove its rev limiter, since it's very powerful as stock. O diba, malakas na yung makina kahit stock siya, so may warranty ka pa rin. The inverted colors of the instrument cluster give it a practicality and racy feel. Easy to read data, designed well so the rider can focus more on what's in front of him, especially on the racetrack. Having wires, magnets, and servos to control the throttle bodies instead of actual cables make it easy for Honda to put 3 riding modes programmed in the ECU: Comfort, Sport, and Sport Plus. So you can choose how the power is delivered depende kung traffic, walwal mode, or all-out kamote mode on the racetrack. The chairless frame chassis ensures that weight is optimized and lateral stiffness of the bike is on par, providing good handling feel. The 37mm Showa inverted front forks provides you with a race-tuned damping, as well as the ProLink assisted rear shock with 5-step preload adjustment makes it easy for the bike to corner at very high speeds. The aluminum swing arm also adds to the factor of lowering its weight down. Stopping power is taken care of by Nissan brakes. Single disc both front and rear, but the front one is 37mm bigger than the old bike. So stopping power is very substantial, or pwede na rin by today's modern standards. Dahil ang laki na nga talaga ng pinagbago ng brake technology mula noon. Sometimes the braking power of newer model single disc brakes are more powerful or almost the same as older dual rotors. Less is more, ika nga. And the double barrel exhaust is one of the best looking stock exhausts I have ever seen in any bike in my opinion. Kung forma lang naman yung habol mo, no need to change the stock ones. The grip on the tarmac is taken care of by 110 cross-section tires in the front and 140 cross-section in the rear, which compound is leaned towards the softer side of the tire spectrum. The handlebar even has a button which triggers the lap timer if you want to go on the racetrack and do a couple of laps so you could track your progress. Talking about ergonomics, the RR in the name says it all. It's really a race-oriented one. But the bars are not as low as the KTM RC200 or RC390. So there's a little bit of comfort in the equation since this bike is designed for beginner riders in the first place. In 2020, the second generation CBR was launched. It had 3 more horsepower than its predecessor, with the same engine displacement. It achieved it from just an ECU reflash, or maybe even improved and lighter engine components. Other upgrades from the previous model also include a slipper clutch, so your aggressive downshifts will be butter smooth, auto blipper and quick shifter, so you don't need to use the clutch when you're racing on the track, smart key technology or keyless ignition, and a reverse LCD dash from the CBR250rr. It also had an ABS version and weighed about 168 kilograms for the ABS version and 165 kilograms for the non-ABS version. And by the way, the colors look really amazing. Well, for me of course. Although a little bit flashy, I think it deserves it since it's gonna be on the track most of its time. In the same year of 2020, Kawasaki also launched their brand new 250cc platform, the ZX25R. It was an inline-4 screamer bike with a rod line of 17,000 RPM. Well, achieving that from a 4-cylinder engine configuration wasn't that hard of course, but it had a shy horsepower figure of only 43.5 at 15,500 RPM and a torque figure of 21.2 Nm in as early as 13,000 RPM of its power band. I'm pretty sure that the low horsepower figure on this bike is due to the strict emission test that it has to go through in order to be sold in the world market. I think a quick ECU reflash should do justice on its performance. It also has an inverted fork, 6-speed manual transmission, fuel injection, traction control, and weight around 184 kilograms. It's priced around 410,000 pesos, which is a lot of money for a small displacement bike. Not that it's small in size, but when you think about it, it's just like a 636 or a ZX10R, only with smaller size block and pistons. Same engineering there, just a little bit smaller. Price-wise, the ZX25R as a rival for the CBR250rr is on another level, but also debatable. But the most important question is, bakit wala pa dito sa Pilipinas? Does Honda even have a plan to release it here? Ano nga ba ang mga rason kung bakit hindi pa nire-release ng Honda ang motor na ito dito sa Pilipinas? Or the question that we may be asking is that, if it does land here in the Philippines, do we Filipinos even see it as something that we would spend that amount of money on? Well, from what I can see, we already embrace the ZX25R with open arms here, even with that huge leap in price. Quite sure that we'd also find the CBR to be just enough or as attractive for its price. Now, let's take a look at the rest of the competition. The KTM RC390 has a punchy 373 single-cylinder engine that produces about 44 horsepower, lots of low-down torque, but struggles in top-end power because of its single-cylinder engine configuration. WP inverted forks in the front, WP rear shock, trellis frame, and a slipper clutch, but doesn't have riding modes and prices at 299,000 pesos. The Yamaha R3 has a 321cc parallel twin engine, revving out 38 horsepower, with good mid-range and top-end power. Also has inverted forks, a preload adjustable rear shock, steel swing arm, and no riding modes either. Also prices at 269,000 Philippine pesos. The Kawasaki Ninja 400 has a 399cc parallel twin engine that produces about 45 horsepower, with excellent mid-range and top-end power. Has a 6-speed transmission with slipper clutch too, but doesn't have riding modes either, nor inverted front forks, and is priced at 295,000 Philippine pesos for the black one and 315,000 pesos if you want the KRT edition or the Kawasaki Racing Team edition. From a value for money perspective, all 3 sport bikes in the small displacement category are in the sensible price range for what they can offer, except for the Kawasaki ZX25R with its 4-cylinder engine layout, which is in the 400,000 mark. Since its manufacturing tolerances are tight enough to make it as premium as possible, and it's also made in a different country, the increased projected price of around 300,000 pesos or more makes it unappealing anymore to its target market. And because of that, I think that Honda doesn't see a point where it will sell good here in our country. But still, we're hopeful that someday Honda will make us happy with the release of this bike. But even with those reasons, there is no doubt that the Honda CBR250rr is one special machine and truly stands out from the rest of its class with its top-notch finish, well-thought-out design, premium components, and an engine with more performance and reliability for its displacement. For all of the design evolution from an old mini race bike to a modern-day street racer, I'd say that the CBR250rr still spells out value for money. Hey there, motorcycle loving dudes, John Speedshift here. If you wanna see more content like this, I hope you could click on the like button so YouTube knows that videos like these are the ones you would like to see. I hope that you would also consider subscribing on my channel so I can produce more content like this for free. Okay guys, this is John Speedshift signing off, over and out. And by the way, also check out more bike reviews in my channel. See ya!